Starting?
We're live. You're live.
So we're starting.
Well, you can say hello to people and.
Hello, people.
Yeah, because I get to see.
Unbelievable, Judy. Unbelievable. Blessing wherever I look. Blessing wherever I look.
Okay.
Do you want to say something to everyone who's joining us? One and only Divine Mother. What a gift to be able to breathe. What a gift to be able to breathe together. What a gift to be able to breathe together in this home. Holding so much Torah in these walls, so much love in these walls, so much devotion and dedication in these walls. אני עבדך בין אמותיך, פיתחת למוסרי. Reb Shlomo said that he composed this nigun walking behind his mother at her funeral, saying, Ani avdecha ben amotecha, I am your servant, the son of your handsmaid. And you're Judean, we're there.
1980.
And he said that, but he taught that the difference between Ani avdecha and being the difference between being a servant of God and a servant, the child of a servant is that when you're born into servitude, that's all you know. That's all you recognize. And there's a way of serving God when we think that there are options out and there were other ways of being in our life. And then when you serve, the only memory you have, you were born with, is you're born with a DNA of service. And I want to separate between when we say in Hebrew "Lavdil ben chayim lechayim," when we want to talk about the living on this side and living on that side in the same sentence. So that's where this notion, it's the only kind of, that's a holy mechitza, right? That separates the worlds. But really it's only a partition, and it's important for me to daven in shuls that they have what I call a user-friendly mechitza. And in this home, really, it's there's a user. I'm sitting here with my ima on the one side, my birth ima on my one side, and Chidi on my other side. And really, you give us all the sense of being your children and walking in the world with really the only option we have in the world is to serve God. And alongside, I want to say, our learning today, in Reb Shlomo's honor, it's also the first time I'm teaching Torah. It's home, in your home, since home, and since Shalom went home. And he's so here, and now you know what it's not only spiritually and emotionally, but physically, what it's like to be walking in the world for two. And today's also my grandmother's yortzeit. My grandmother I'm named after, I carry her name and her mother's name, Miriam Sarah. And I'm Miriam Sarah Bat Miriam, Bat Sarah. And I was really born into a relationship with God, and there is no choice. There's no choice to my names. And there's no choice. Ani avdecha, and you've taught me so much about what that means to serve God from a place of no choice. And I'm sure that this is partially a dream of your parents come true. For me to be sitting here in Yerushalayim, this beautiful home with these amazing people and sharing Torah together. Tomorrow is Feigelson yortzeit. Today. And that's right. So we're really in good company. I decided what we're going to learn is, and I actually have a hand, because you know what handouts are. I always say this. I always repeat myself when I say this. Handouts are adult blankies. Right? We all work in the world. It's like, really, at some point, parents work so hard to get us to let go of our blankies, and then, but there's a reason for it, and there's an honesty in walking in the world with a blankie. And adults were told not to. So the deal, kids also, they want to be seen when they climb and when they do all kinds of acrobatics. They want to be seen. So, right, and they say, look at me in life to say that. So then we find different ways of saying, look at me. So I wear all these rings. It's my way of saying, look at me. Yesterday, I actually forgot my earrings. And I left the house without earrings, exactly that. And then someone afterwards said that they didn't recognize me because I didn't have earrings on. Okay, so that's our way of saying, look at me. And I say, as adults, our source sheets are our adult blankies. And there are different ways of walking in the world as a student of Reb Shlomo, and the gift is that we have paradigm that looks like. It's so that when the Maggid of very preacher of Mezrich, the students of the Baal Shem Tov, the success of the Baal Shem Tov in many ways, left the world, each one of his students took a different part of who he was. And there isn't one student that was his one successor. We don't have a one successor to the Maggid of Mezrich, and each one of his students took a different part of who he was. And I think with Reb Shlomo as well, each one of us took a different piece and a different part of who he is. And so I want to say that there are that their mission, for example, is to document his words and to share the words of Torah that he specifically said and brought down into the world, to make sure that they're not forgotten and they're not lost. And honestly, it's not a piece that I carry. Right? I don't carry a piece of making sure that every word that he said is not lost in the world. And I'm grateful that there are those that do. This yeshiva was Reb Shlomo's and Judy's piece, right? Right? The yeshiva is your piece of his Torah to bring into the world. And for me, he was a living Torah that I walked with, and I walk with, and he taught me how to walk in the world. And honestly, sometimes when I get to the airport, I'm thinking to myself, really, again? And I said, yeah, but how many times did you take him to the airport? So you know what it's like. Okay, again. So I want to share this teaching from the Shiloh, because as you can see, my Shiloh, like this is really how I walk with Reb Shlomo. And what can I say? On Shabbat, when I taught from it, so one of my students, actually one of my students from LA that's here, he said, "What? You take it out of the house?" I said, "Don't worry. When I came home, it was in my carry-on." So it doesn't leave my side in that way. And what you see at the top of our source sheet is a quote from Reb Shlomo. And it was, and I love the fact that there's someone that I hear now, people will say, I heard this story about Reb Shlomo, and they tell me the story. And I'm like, well, actually, let me tell you when it happened, why it happened, and it happened to me. So, but I love the fact that it's kind of out there in the world in a different way. So the week after, I met Reb Zalman. They're sitting up there together. It's like an amazing Beit Midrash. I know, it's really hard not to want to be there right now.
Yeah.
So that's also the truth. So after I met Reb Zalman on the Motzei Shabbat about 25 years ago, and there was an amazing words of Torah that he shared, and they had a great and very divine impact on my life. And that week, I was talking to Reb Shlomo. I remember I had really a bad back. I was sleeping on the floor for a while in my living room when I was living on Bengala in the Katamonim. And I asked him when he and Reb Zalman parted ways, because it was very clear that they speak a very similar language and a very different language simultaneously. And I found myself continuously throughout the evening as Reb Zalman was talking, translating Reb Zalman into Reb Shlomo, and what that looked like, and then I could integrate it. So I asked him where they parted, and he said that Reb Zalman thought that everything had to be in the Torah, and when he couldn't find it in the Torah, he went to other traditions. And he said, as I wrote here, and I thought everything had to be in the Torah, and when I couldn't find it, I went to the Shiloh. And the truth is that I walk with both of them. And that's also my truth, as someone who really walks with both Reb Zalman and Reb Shlomo, as a musmechet of both of them, and I walk with both of them as my walking sticks. But they don't do the walking. I do the walking, but they're my walking sticks. And the Shiloh is my walking stick. So for me, the best way I can honor Reb Shlomo is not to be a vessel for his words, but to be a vessel for the Torah that he taught me of how to walk in the world and how to learn, and how to know that when you can't find something in the Torah, you can go to the Shiloh. And the Mashilach, the Ishbitzer Rebbe, will help me find it. And I have to say about this teaching, this is like really one of the core teachings that I walk. There are a handful of the Mashilach which I think that are core for how I walk in the world and how I interact with Kudsha B'rich, with the one and only, and also I think also reflects a way of the way Reb Shlomo walked in the world and taught me to walk in the world, and gives me a lot of strength. So this teaching is from Parshat Emor, which is really a Torah portion that starts with approaching the Kohanim. So in 6 months from now, I think you'll remember this moment. When you get to Shul on Shabbat Parshat Emor, and they're reading this parasha, then you're like, oh, 1 second. Boy, I was a Zorzim Makdimim Mitzvot, right? I'm like, people are in Bereshit, but we're already in Vayikra, really? Like, you're just getting here now, is what you're going to say that Shabbat. And the Mashilach does hear something that is not common for him, for sure, and not common for many Hasidic masters, to look at the parasha as a whole, and then to try to conceptualize it. More often, we'll see a commentary on specific psukim. The Mashilach often also will use psukim from verses from the Haftarah as well. But here, he takes the whole parasha, and he wants to try to organize it thematically. And he'll talk about 5 issues that the parasha deals with, and then he'll look at the 5 chagim, the 3 regalim, and then Rosh Hashanah and Kippur as well, as responses to those issues. I have to say, honestly, I think the questions are phenomenal. The answers, okay, honestly. And the truth is, I say this often, and I believe this very much, what we share are our questions, and what separates us is our answers. Because we need different answers. We need different answers at different times in our life to the same question. And I think if we listen to ourselves, we'll find out more often than not, we ask the same questions over and over again. The language changes, right? The sophistication changes. This is my blankie. It looks like a source sheet in Rashi's script, which makes me look really smart. That's how an adult says. It looks for security. Like I said, my rings, they're a way of saying, look at me. I don't say look at me, but every time I pick up my hands and you look at my rings, you are looking at me. That's a sophisticated way of saying, look at me. Now you know I'm not so sophisticated because I've shared my secrets. But we ask, there are core questions that we ask time and again in terms of who we are. I think if we listen to ourselves and listen to the questions that we ask and strip them time and again, we'll see that there are core questions that we come back to. So I think we share questions, and then answers, they change, even to the same questions, the answers that we need at different times in life. And part of what seeking teachers is, I think for me, is ways of those who share the questions I walk with, and to give me the tools to find the answers that I need. They don't necessarily give me the answer, but enable me to hear answers. And then also, I want to say, for me, this teaching is actually a way of living with the question, which I think at times is even more important than giving someone an answer, is letting someone know that they're not alone in their question. And not every question needs to be answered. And I know, honestly, that sometimes I annoy my students because I tell them I only have questions. I don't have answers. If you're coming to sit with me because you think I have answers, like, leave me. No answers. I don't see, and I don't know, and I don't understand. I can only listen and hear and ask a question or two that come up from what I'm hearing, but I don't really know. So being able to walk with someone with their questions, for me, is probably one of the holiest elements of how I walk in the world. And I think a gift that really, that Reb Shlomo gave us is a way of walking in the world with questions. I don't believe that he provided answers, I'm sorry. I believe he provided questions. And he taught me how to look in the world. בסדרה הזאת, I'm going to read and translate. בסדרה הזאת יש 5 פרשיות עד פרשת המועדות. There are 5 parashiyot, there are 5 issues, 5 topics in this weekly portion of Emor until we get to the Chagim, to the Moadot. And I love the word Moadot because there's a timely element to that word. Right? We talk about a cemetery being Bet Moed Lechol Chai, a time where we will all come to, right? A time that we will all meet, a place that we will all arrive at, but also Moed Hidva'adut, to come together. It's a place where we can come together. And then we also have this phrase, this term in Halacha, Shor Mu'ad, right? A bull, Shalom Aleichem, a bull who is, who we know that is likely to gore. Right? We have Shor Shen Agach, we have a bull that gores, the Halacha teaches us, and we also have a Shor Mu'ad. And what are the damages that one is liable to if their bull seemingly out of nowhere causes damage, or whether there is a bull, a Shor Mu'ad, one that we know that habitually can cause damage. So when I see this word Mo'adot, when we think of holidays, for me, I hear all of these words put together. Bet Moed Lechol Chai, the dwelling of all living, or the dwelling where all living will come to, or the one place where we will all get to, where we equally come together, whether it's a designated, right, a designated place. All of these elements come together. Shor Mu'ad, Bet Moed Lechol Chai, Moed. Vehem Neged, so these 5 periods of time, these 5 pockets of time, הם כנגד 5 מיני תרמות שיוכל להימצא בלב האדם על מידותיו של הקדוש ברוך הוא. They are likened to, they are metaphors to 5 different kinds of questioning a person can have towards God that can be found in one's heart about the way God manifests in the world. Now, the uniqueness of the word taromet, which I love very much, is taromet is a halachic category. So, what does that mean? Taromet is in the world of legalities. A person can have taromet against another person, which means they can have a claim, but it's a claim that can't be mitigated in a court of law. So you have a claim, there's a real claim, and there's nothing we can do about it. So the rabbinic example is, if in Hebrew, the words shishim and shloshim, they really kind of like, you don't really know sometimes whether you're saying shloshim or shishim, 30 or 60, right? So let's say I say to Tali, go get me 6 workers for shishim shekel an hour. Go get me 6 workers for 60 shekel an hour. And you hear shloshim, you hear 30. You just heard it. And you collect 6 people, and they do this job for me for 30 shekel an hour. And then when I come to pay them, I have cash to pay them 60 an hour because that's what I said. But when you collected them and you said 30 an hour and they were willing to work for 30 an hour, okay, I only have to pay them 30 an hour. They can have taromet towards you. They can have a claim towards you because they could have been making 60 an hour. But because of how you heard what I said, they're going to get 30 an hour. It wasn't as if you were going to pocket it. You said, oh, she said 60, I'll hire for 30, and I'll pocket the difference. That's a different kind of business. But here, in innocence, you weren't going to pocket anything. And in innocence, you heard 30, not 60. They could have taromet towards you. They could have a claim towards you because they could have earned 60. They're not going to. You don't have an obligation to pay them the difference. I don't have an obligation to pay them the difference. And they have taromet. Right? But you also hear the word in Hebrew, taromet, is connected to the word ra'am. lightning, thunder, right? There's like, you want to growl because something, right? You've been shortchanged here, but there's nothing to do. Take it to court. There's nothing to do. But you have a claim, right? Yes, it's true. You missed out. You could have earned 60 shekel an hour. That's true. And you only earned 30. And that's like, lovely. Thank you for saving me from saying the word, it's a bitch, but I did it. Right? Like, that's it. That's ta'omet. Right? We would say in modern English, it sucks. Like, really, God. So there are ways in which we can find it in our heart. Limatzit. Okay, to find. I want to say we don't go cultivating, maybe. But we come back to it time and again. It shows up at different times. It can be found in our heart, right? And that's also, right, there, I want to say, there are a lot of head games that we can play with God. And that's true. We can make really good arguments to make God look good all the time. I think we're good at it. And the truth is that sometimes if we shut up for a moment and our head stops working and we listen to our heart, then there are questions that are there that don't always get resolved. I can talk myself into it and I can talk myself out of it, and sometimes that's what I need to do to get through the day. But at the end of the day, after I've given everyone a really good spiel, right, in those moments when I'm about to say Shema Yisrael before I go to sleep at night, and it's like, okay, that got me through the day. But are those inner conversations, is that head talk going to get me through the night? And that's when I feel that these moments come through. And our hearts all of a sudden are screaming. And
excuse me.
Please.
This is the first time I've heard you speak. How are you conducting this? Is this interactive? Can we ask questions, or should we wait right to the end?
If you have a question to ask right now, this is the time.
You gave me an example about 30 and 60. How would the workers know that you meant 60?
Because I come with my cash and I'm already about to hand them out 60 shekel, right? And they find out.
So they found out from you?
Yes.
Not from the one who hired them?
Correct, because I came to pay. And in my mind, I'm like, hey guys. But I had a flip situation happen. Okay, I got my hair cut and I paid 100 shekel. And then a friend of mine, she was saying she knows where I got my haircut. She says, I haven't been there in a long time. I'm going to go back there. I haven't been there for a long time. And I show up on Shabbat, and there she is, and she's got the same haircut. And she says, yeah, my kids say I look just like you. I'm like, my compliment. And then I go, not bad, huh? 100 shekel. And she goes, no, what do you mean 100? 150. So I said, like, oops, right? I said, it's probably you just gave it to me for 100 because it's my first time since I got home, I'm like, but that kind of like, oops, right? It was like, okay, which I actually think is true. And I honestly do think it is true. It was Erev Chag, and I was like his last customer for the day and before the Chag, and he was happy that I was home. And I think it was a gift to my mother as well because he loves my mother. And so that's also true. We'll see the next time I go back what it costs me. Well, 125, right? So I was actually thinking of sending her an email a text saying, my mother pays 180. But that's kind of how it happened. They found out. It's actually, I don't think the Gemara, even when the Talmud, when it describes this exact example, explains exactly how they found out, but they found out.
If they wouldn't have found out,
then they wouldn't have a question. They wouldn't have ta'omet. They would be happy.
No, would you be,
I'm not obligated for anything. I'm not obligated to pay them 60. Tali's not obligated to pay them 60. No one's obligated to anything. They lost the money. Now, it's true. Had they not known, they would have never known, and they would have been happy to work for 30 because they were happy to work for 30. And they wouldn't have known.
So then you're not obligated to make up the difference?
No, not at all. They were willing to work for 30.
And that's across the board?
Yeah. Whatever monetary agreement was made, they agreed to work for 30. An obligation. even though my willingness was to be more generous than that. Okay, so there are 5 elements, 5 issues in which we could have ta'omet towards God. Okay, now this is really, I want to stop here for a moment and say that, this is really, I think, one of the greatest gifts that Reb Shlomo gave me, and that I walk with, because honestly, God and I have got a real serious mega love-hate relationship going on. Right? I think that I'm going to live to 120 because God's going to say, her, just keep her down there. Just keep her far away from me. I'm just going to get up here. She's going to tell me how to run the world and what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong. And, it's just like, just keep her down there. And then I said to myself, but actually being obnoxious as your insurance policy for a long life, not so sure it's so great. But on the other hand, it's not so bad either. But that's the thing, right? So I think that's how I'm going to stick around for a long time. So just keep her down there. Just like, let her drive other people crazy, right? But so many of us, I want to say, grow up thinking, God is impeccable. God is holy. God doesn't make mistakes. And if there's something wrong in our lives or how we're living our lives or experiencing our lives, it's our fault. And that we don't have a right to question God. And we don't have a right to hold on to our questions. And for me, what is the Mashiach doing? He's taking a halachic paradigm that's entrenched in our tradition, and he's interpreting it in a way which actually avails me to be in relationship with God, even in those questions. Because it actually brings God into the question. So I'm not angry, I'm angry at God. And that's the whole difference. Right? That's the whole difference. So ta'omet tells me that there's a place in my tradition. By using paradigms that come from halacha, so this paradigm has a place in it. This paradigm has a place in our tradition. In the physical realm, in the realm, in the emotional realm. Wow, right? There's a place to hold my questioning of God. And that now questioning God isn't an act of heresy, but it's an act of faith. Because questioning God means I'm in dialogue with the one and only. And life isn't arbitrary. And life doesn't happen. Questioning God isn't heresy. Questioning God is faith. And so often we hear the other voice, right? That you're a heretic if you don't believe. Like you're not a believer if you have questions. Right? We need emunah tmima. To get there, guys, we got to ask the questions first. I'm going to work through the questions hard. Yes, then we can get there. That's what we call tmimut shniya, second innocence. There is such a thing as second innocence. But first innocence, honestly, it's like a tree with no roots. It's like a tree with no roots. So ta'omet. So I want to say that that opening up the Mashiach for me and introducing this notion of having ta'omet towards God was a real gift. People laugh, and I mentioned this on Shabbat as well. That I talk to God in English. I daven in Hebrew. I can't imagine not opening a siddur. Right? So daven from a siddur in Hebrew. I can't imagine not opening a siddur in English. I daven in Hebrew. I journal in Hebrew. So when I write my private thoughts, I journal in Hebrew. I grew up here. I journal in Hebrew. But when I talk to God, I talk to him in English, or her in English. Because Reb Shlomo taught me how to talk to God. And when he would teach, he'd teach in English most of the time. I mean, thank God, I also heard him teach here in Israel in Hebrew, but most of the time he spoke in English. And the language that we communicated in was English. So therefore, so when I did the one-on-one, when I stubbed my toe, I was in a car accident in 2006. And my car was totaled. My mechanic said that when he saw the car, he didn't believe that I was talking to him, that God must love me very much. That's why he said, Chamuda. This is in Los Angeles, but he's Israeli. He says, Chamuda? כשראיתי את האוטו, האמנתי שאת מדברת איתי. אלוהים כנראה מאוד אוהב אותך. Because the front of the car is a Honda CRV. It was like not a small car. The front of the car was like an accordion. I call my Ima and I say to her, Im, I call her Im or Ims. I said, I have good news and I have bad news. She said, yeah. I said, the good news? The good news is I'm talking to you. The bad news is my last words are going to be in English. Because I said, because when the truck hit me, I said, oh my God. And when it climbed on top of me, I went, oh my God. So my last words are going to be in English. I thought that it also meant I know how to cuss politely. Okay. So we can do this. We can say this. We can question. And it's an act of faith. And an act of respect, not of disrespect. Wow. I got in trouble a few weeks ago. I taught somewhere my first week home, and it was a mixed group of Israelis and students from overseas that had just finished high school last year. And I said something about God's name, and I said, listen, these are the names that I use, and whatever name that you're comfortable with, those are the names that you should use. And if I use the name of God that you're not comfortable with, then pull it out of the sentence and put something else in that you're comfortable with, so you don't get lost in the conversation and the learning. Don't let the names that I use for God upset you and disturb you. And I use one and only, use Divine Mother, Kuchabrichu, Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the World. And then I said, sometimes on a, when it's a really intimate conversation, I'll say George or Georgina.
You call God George or Georgina?
Yeah. So I'm on a first name basis, and sometimes it's George and sometimes it's Georgina. Okay. So, because I figure if God hears George or Georgina, then God knows it's me. And I have one soul sister who's a nun. This is the crazy part of the story. One soul sister who's a nun. And so she also calls him George. But you won't do Georgina. I'm thinking, you're a nun? And you won't do Georgina? She won't. So now I know George. He says, oh, it's either Sister Claire or Reb Mimi. But Georgina, it's only Reb Mimi. Okay. So someone got up and walked out.
Slicha. Elef alafim, slicha. I don't know how to say this tactfully, so I'm asking for forgiveness right away. Is it not sacrilegious to refer to God by a colloquial name?
So someone walked out, a young woman walked out, because she thought that what I was doing was complete heresy, complete disrespect. And thank God one of the madrichot, one of the counselors walked out and talked to her. She came back in. We learned together. It was okay. But for me, it's actually a statement of intimacy and closeness. Right? That's exactly it. It's a choice how the name is used. It can be used as a way of disregarding God and disregarding the holiness of the one and only. Or it could be saying, really, when I do pillow talk with God, it's not going to be Hashem Tzvakot, the one that is almighty, created all. It's going to be something very different. And that is my personal name. We all have different names, and depending on what our relationship with the person is, that's what people call us. And we know when we hear from behind us, not only the voice, but we hear by the name that's used, what the relationship is with that person. So here as well. So some people will think it's blasphemous to question God, and here the Mashiach is like, no, it's not blasphemous at all. It's actually an act of faith. It's an act of devotion. Like, I believe in you enough. Like sometimes I tell people, God is big enough to carry your questions. You don't need to protect God. Right? So many times we want to protect our family, we want to protect our teachers, we want to protect our children. By not saying certain things, by not doing certain things. And then, but how much, I want to say the flip is how much faith do we have in our children, our teachers, and our divine to be able to actually let them carry the magnitude of what is. That's actually a statement of our trust in their greatness. Ta'omet. We can find it at times. The first one, a parasha rishona, that's where the number 1 is. The first, הפרשה הראשונה, הוא מנפשות מת, has to deal with death in the world. and the relationship of the Kohen, the priest, to death. הוא נגד תרעומת שיש בלב האדם. There is תרעומת that we have in our heart, על מיתה והיעדר המצוי בעולם. Right? It's as if to say, the God that I believe in could have created a world without death. The God that I believe in could have created a world without absence. The God that I believe in could have created a world without lack. Why a world like this? Whether it's physical, right, or we see, or emotional, or spiritual, we'll see, he'll talk about further down. These are the questions. This is the first thing is, why did God create a world of Vahi Boker Yom Echad? May there be darkness, may there be light one day. Why don't we have only light? Why? People say, oh, this is the way of the world. I said, yeah, but my God could have made the world very differently. If I believe in a God of a creator, okay, and then again, if you don't believe in God as a creator, then you have a different set of questions. But if you believe in God as a creator, then I can say, God could not create the world differently, other. Why are people taken from us? Why is there illness? Why do our organs die younger than other parts of our body? Right? That's a form, illness is a form of, God forbid, of death, right? Why? So that's question number one. Parasha Shinit, the second segment in the parasha, הוא מבעל מום, שיוכל להימצא בליבו תרעומת על מידותיו של הקדוש ברוך הוא. Okay, so again, in the Torah, the Torah is only talking about priests, the Kohanim, but you understand that for the Mashilach, each one of us has that quality of service. It's not a birthright, it's a soul right that we have, each one of us. So it may be that our physical body was not born into a family of Kohanim. And our birth family maybe are not Kohanim. But on a soul level, we're all Kohanim. And we all can ask these questions. So the second is the Kohen. We know that a Kohen that, God forbid, is born with a blemish, a mum. They can question why. He was born a Kohen. So if he was born a Kohen, that means that God's initial intention was for him to be able to bring the sacrifices. למה ברא במום שימנע אותו מזה קדושה? קדושת כהן העובד אין לשער, כמו שנראה, שציווה לנו שמתברך אכילת מצות, כמה קדושה יש בזה האכילה. וכל שכן אכילת קודשי שמיים. So number two is saying, Master World, so close, and then there's a wall in front of me. The problem isn't a blemish. I want you to understand. Like the problem isn't, his ta'omet here isn't about being a balmu. It's not a genocide against people that are born with blemishes or handicaps or challenges. It's about when they come together, that there's something that holds me back, right? You know, there are a lot of years that that I thought that being an Orthodox woman was like being a Kohen Balmu. Right, being right there for many years. I think that I don't think that anymore, because that would mean that being a woman is a blemish, right? I don't think that. But there were years that I did. When I first met the Mashilach, I said, oh, now I know who I am in the world, right? Because of all the things that I couldn't do, because I thought I couldn't do, because of being a woman. I want you to know that someone that also changed my life, not only the Mashilach, is a friend of mine, Dr. Sheldon Kupferman, and when I was in third grade, he was in fourth grade, I had a major crush on him. And in my autograph book, that's when we made Aliyah. It's like the best story in the world, honestly. only the short version because you got to know this, right? You got to know the story. It's an amazing story. It changed my life multiple times. You just never know it's going to change your life. This is why I'm telling you the story. So in third grade, I had a major crush on Sheldon. He was in the fourth grade. He had just come to school that year. And my family were like, oh yeah, so I had an autograph book and Sheldon wrote in it. Sheldon wrote in it, Rose are red, violets are blue, some poems rhyme, and not this one. Okay, at the time, I was so annoyed. I was so annoyed at him. Just be nice to me. Like, I'm going to Israel. You're never going to see me again. Right? Rose red, sugar, rose red, violets are blue, sugar, sweet, and sour. Be nice. You'll never see me again. But no, Rose red, violets are blue, some poems rhyme, and not this one. I was so annoyed at him. But, I try not to use buts, and whenever something went wrong in my life, I would repeat, rose are red, violets are blue, some poems rhyme, and not this one. Because it was like I was walking down the road, rose, red, violets are blue, that's fine. Right? Some poems rhyme, you're still okay. And then that turn that goes in the wrong direction, and not this one. Whenever something went wrong in my life, I would quote this poem, rose, red, violets are blue, some poems rhyme, and not this one. So really, Sheldon was like amazing, amazing, amazing. Right? Because the truth of the matter is, had he written Sugar, Sweet, and So Are You, I would have never really remembered him. Because honestly, I don't remember anything else that's been in that autograph book. Nothing else, just that. So Facebook, God bless Facebook sometimes. Yeshiva Rabbi was a Soloveitchik. This is the elementary school I went to in Washington Heights. Has a page on Facebook. So I put on Facebook, I'm looking for Sheldon. In 1971, he was in fourth grade. He wrote this in my autograph book. I have students all over the world, and I've shared this with my students all over the world, and I want to thank him. So people start posting on Facebook, I think he's my dentist or he's my mother's dentist. I'm like, in Riverdale, and honestly, I know this is being recorded, I don't do dentists in Riverdale. I do tell me he's an architect in Chattanooga. I don't know, right? Timbuktu, I don't know. But really, and then I felt like a stalker. I go on Facebook and I see he doesn't have a page. Someone says he doesn't have a page. His wife has a page. And I see this really lovely, beautiful family, and they really, really are, right? And I see he's wearing a suit and a close-shaven beard, and she has a shaitel on, and like beautiful children. And I'm like, whoa, I don't do those kinds of families. And then I want to start to explain who I am and what I do in the world. Like, it's not happening. So I let go of this. And then a while passes. And he posts on Facebook, he says, do you have a picture? I think I'm your Sheldon. And I'm like, no, I don't have a picture of me, and you'll never know who I am. But I actually have a picture of you, because I took a picture of him. But only the profile, because God forbid he should stand straight when I was taking the picture, because he was a fourth grade boy. So I only have a profile. So I upload the picture, and he says, I'm your Sheldon. Okay, now what? Now what do I do? So I wait a couple of days, and I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to negotiate this. And finally, it was the day that, those days you walk away from work and you say, I'm never walking back into that place, and really, I'll be fired, and that's fine, and get me out of here. It's 11 o'clock at night on a Thursday night. That's not the time to write letters to strangers, because there are no barriers, and you say everything and anything. So there I go, blabbing who I am, what I do, Reb Shlomo, America. Okay, and I hit the send button at 1 o'clock in the morning without even actually reading it again. And like, that's it. Okay, so now I'll take a deep breath. So I wake up in the morning, and as long as my letter was to him, that's how long his letter is to me. That is waiting for me the next morning. And he is like, he's on and on about Reb Shlomo and Rabbi Mital, the teachers, and who I am in the world. And then he writes a sentence that I never thought that someone, now these are all stereotypes, right? They're all stereotypes. But I never thought that someone who's living in the heart of modern Orthodox Riverdale, with as an oral surgeon with his beautiful family, would say to me, and he wrote, and I hope he forgives me for sharing this, he says, you, as an Orthodox woman, had the freedom to make any choice you wanted.
What?
Any choice you wanted. I'm like, what? I thought everything was despite, not because. But I didn't think about all the layers of responsibilities that fall on men in that world, in terms of expectations of who they're going to be and how they're going to live their lives and how they're going to provide and what that's going to look like. I never thought of that at all. I always only saw what was taken from me or held back from me because of who I am. And this sentence, you had the freedom. No one's ever said to me as an Orthodox woman that I have freedom of choice. So, Dr. Sheldon. So, really, I want to say, for many years, I thought being an Orthodox woman was being a Kohen Balmum, right? I was so close. The learning, the teachers, the walking in the world the way I walk in the world, and then, oh, well, can't. And then I realized, like, you can't do this. But there was a time, right, that I used this image. That's number 2. Let's go to number 3. Number 3 is, בפרשה השלישית,
I have an appointment at 2 o'clock. I'm sorry. You're a fascinating person.
thank you. Well, God willing, you'll be able to watch the end. Correct? So, thank you for making this happen. So, we'll all come back to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for making it happen.
And it should be a successful meeting. פרשה השלישית ומכהן שנטמא. Okay, so this is the third, is what happens when a Kohen becomes impure. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that the Kohen is walking in the Mikdash on his way to offer an offering, and there's a dead rat in front of him that he stumbles over. Okay, so he's touched this, and he's now impure. He can't actually do the service that day. So he says, why? Because כי בטח הכהן שהיה מוכן לעבוד את השם, היה משמר עצמו קודם לכן. A Kohen who wants to serve God would purify himself and protect himself, וזיכך את ליבו כפי יכולתו, and purified his heart as best as possible. You know, I know that I'll never be a Kohen. Like, you know how I know that God was good to me by not being male and Kohen? Because, you know, in order to go up to Duchen, in order to do Birkat HaKohanim, you can't be angry at anyone. You have to hold everyone in love, right? Be'ahava. Asher kishem esav tzivanu levarech otam Yisrael be'ahava. Bless and everyone love. Like, that's impossible for me. Like, I would never be able to go up to Duchen ever, because that would be a moon, that would be a blemish in me. Right? So I can imagine someone would every other day. Let's say I could do it sometimes, right? But when it came time to the blessing, the Birkat Kohanim, I would walk out because I couldn't, right? And someone would walk out with me and say, okay, who you got today? Who's today? You know, you're not sick. You're not like, okay, who's today? So the Kohen, right, or the person, like the one image I can have of this, what it looks like to be in this image, in this metaphor, is, God is my witness. It's Erev Yom Kippur. I go to Mincha. Right? So that's the first al-chet that we say. I go to Mincha. So, okay, you've done your first relinquishing. I walk out of shul, it's 1:30, and in my mind, I'm walking up Rehov and to my home. It's like Rehov is like from here to the front road, right here in front of us, and then through an alley, and I'm home. How much time am I in the public? Okay, there's one person at that time in Yerushalayim that wasn't talking to me. One person who I tried to appease multiple times. I actually don't think I was so guilty, but okay, fine. They needed someone to be guilty. I was the one that they chose. Okay, fine, I accept it. Okay, I tried multiple times over the years to ask for forgiveness and nothing. Okay, I just finished Mincha, Erev Yom Kippur. I really am in the public domain for about 2 minutes. And there he is walking down the street. Really? Master of the world. He couldn't walk down the street 5 minutes from now? He couldn't have walked around the street 5 minutes ago? He couldn't walk home and stand the other way? This isn't the only way for him to walk home. I couldn't have stood in shul for another 10 minutes and talked to someone? No. I've done my work, and there they are. So why? Master of the world. Like, this is this Talmud. Like, master of the world. I've worked. I've done my homework. I've purified my heart. I've said my first al-chet. really everything, and then the one person in Yerushalayim that doesn't talk to me, walking down the block. Not. Could I not walk down? Okay. Oi, and then there's the fourth. Parasha Revi'it, U'mimameh Korban. Okay, this is what happens when you bring a sacrifice. You bring an offering to God. And there's a blemish in the offering. Not you have a blemish, but what is it you bring? What is it you want to offer? Right? What happens if you are the atom? Right? Why do we have a Nobel Prize? It was an attempt to redeem the wisdom of being able to break the atom, that then made an atom bomb. But it wasn't set out to make an atom bomb. So what happens if we bring something into the world that's used inappropriately? What if I teach a class and someone takes that information, and I teach a and they say, oh, everything is in the realm of the divine, I can go to cheeseburger in God's name. I don't know to myself, even though I think about it all the time, right? What if we actually bring something into the world that's holy, and yet it's manifest in the world differently? There's a teaching of his son, of the Bet Yaakov, the Mashiach's son, which I have to say, I always honor Leah Rosenthal when I teach this, and I have to remind her again and again that I share this in her name. So gazillion years ago, when I was Rosh Bet Midrash L'Nashim, the women's Bet Midrash at Yakar, and Leah taught Gemara. She is teaching at Pardes for many, many years, a very loved and beloved teacher. And we were learning together teaching of the Bet Yaakov. And the Bet Yaakov, on the pasuk, Isha ki tazri yalda zachar, a woman who is seated and she gives birth to a male child. And in the Hasidic world, and the Bet Yaakov also, very much so, it's a paradigm for being able to bring something other into the world. Because you would think that a woman could only procreate women. Like a female could only birth female. Like, because we know in the story of creation, every species to its own way. Like whatever goes into the ark, every species to its own kind. So there's a metaphor here of one would think that one could only birth that of their kind. So female could, how can it be that female can birth male? Okay. In this image, the Beit Yaakov, he says that there's a moment where a woman in childbirth, I can only talk about this on the realm of the metaphor, right? But there's a moment in childbirth that a woman holds back and doesn't push. And he says, the reason for that is that the woman is concerned, will this child really live a life of service of God? There's a moment that she holds back because she's afraid that maybe this child that she's bringing into the world isn't gonna live a life of service. So she holds back for a moment before she pushes. So Leah, God bless her, she says, I'm a woman and not a metaphor. And you don't think those thoughts in that moment. You do whatever you can to get the child out. But this phrase, I'm a woman and not a metaphor, I walk with it always. Nonetheless, here in the metaphor, right, that is an image. Like you have an offering to bring, you go all the way up to Yerushalayim, and then when it's checked, you can't offer it. מדוע ינחיל לו השם יתברך טוב ורכוש כזה שלא יוכל להקריבו אליו? Why will God give us gifts that we can't use as an offering to God? Right? And then there was a way in which I went from seeing myself as a Kohen Balmu, as a priest that had a blemish, to having, right, my offering. And then I don't want to say that either, but this was like the progression that the Mashiach availed me to try to understand my existence in the world. How can it be, right, that God has given a gift that be served? Now, I do also want to say that different offerings for different reasons. So I know that for some communities in the Jewish world, I can't bring my Torah to it. And in some, I can. So I know that my offering, depending on who's checking the offering, that will define whether it's blemished or not. And I'm actually, I have to be honest, like for many years, I actually had this question for God. Why, for these communities, is it blemished? And now I have the question for the communities and not for God. Because I know that it's not blemished. And it's because of their set of eyes that they think that the offering is blemished. And I know it's not. My shift has been actually from God to these communities. Okay, the last one, and then we're going to call it a day. Okay, and this one is like a daily one. Okay, the fifth issue is Korban Todah, is Mizebach Todah. Okay, we have different kind of offerings. And one offering is a Zebach Todah, one offering is an offering of gratitude that we bring. Something good happens. Right, what do we do with it? Today, prayer, for example, is a form of offering. So I know I use this practice, honestly, a lot. Something good happens, I'll say a Mizmor Tehillim. I'll say a chapter of Tehillim immediately as a way of translating it into, that's my offering, right? So here, though, what's amazing is about the Zevach Todah is Nemar Bayom Hahu Ya'achel. Meaning to say, we can only eat it on that day. No leftovers. You know, there are people that don't like leftovers. There are people that don't like to eat leftovers, right? No matter how delicious it is, they don't want to eat leftovers. Okay. It turns out that this korban, this offering of gratitude, no leftovers on that day. And here the question is, why? 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 Why do I only have today? Why can't I have the assurance tomorrow?
It's like the month. It goes rotten, the worms come.
Totally, right? And the Me'al Shilach, it's amazing. He has this phrase, anava be'usha. Improper shame. He says, because there are people that took more than their share. Why? Because they would say, God gave me today, but who am I that God will give me tomorrow? So he says that's improper modesty. But there's a way in which really the Me'al Shilach that demands of us stand in our greatness in God's presence. Because how do you say this to God? Unless you totally believe in God. And nonetheless, do you totally believe in God and trust enough to be able to say it? So the last one is why Shacharit was amazing, can I not trust that when I come to Mincha, it's also going to be good? Like, that's what it is, right? Why? All I have is the moment. And where I would like to believe where there isn't work all the time. It's somewhere I can rest. It's not always hard. It's not always not known. There's a security blanket. Right? Every time I make the recipe, and this time I was like, whoa, I remember, since they're both on the other side and they're celebrating together. Okay, so Reb Shlomo came to Yakal for the Shabbaton at Yakal, and he and Rabbi Rosen Rudnicki, they came to dinner, and then we went back to Yakal for a Tish. I cannot tell you, it was the worst meal in the world. Now, I made all the recipes I always make, and it always is like amazing. The chicken was dry, this was that. It was like the worst. And the two of them didn't talk to each other the whole time. They love each other, they respect each other, they honor each other, right? And it was like the most ridiculous. So you think that you're going to have this most amazing meal, like the dream of your life come true, that you have your Rav and your Rebbe together at dinner, Friday night. Like, it doesn't get, like, I mean, that's like the highest meal of the week, everything, right? Perfection. You make everything right. Like, whoa. It was, if I have to think of like the worst meal at my Shabbat table ever, that was it. The worst cooking, that was it. The worst conversation, That was it. So this is the Mashilach, right? You would think I would be able to rely on the fact that, okay, my Rav, my Rebbe together at the table, the recipes, I didn't make anything new. My best recipes, the ones I know, unbelievable. Unbelievable. Why can't I trust it? Why can't I trust it? I remember one Shabbat, one Friday I was cooking. It was true. Okay, there's limit. I burned the rice. Like, okay, it takes talent to burn the rice. I burned the rice, and then the main dish, the fish, went flying across my kitchen. Now my kitchen was half the size of this table, flying across, and I go, okay. And then I just stood there in the middle of the kitchen and go, okay, master the world. It's not my Shabbat, it's your Shabbat. It's not my guest, it's your guest. You better get your act together because this is not happening. And I'm walking out of this kitchen in 2 hours. And I started everything over from the beginning, and it was fine. But that's the thing, right? There's no, like this walking with God doesn't mean we have answers. It means we have questions. It doesn't mean that we have clarity. It means that we live in the realm of the not known. There's a wonderful moment with Reb Shlomo and my Smicha Chabuta, Rabbi Yoni Gordas. We're sitting around, and Reb Shlomo comes in, he sits down, and he goes like this. Because you I know, you I know, you I know. He gets to Rabbi Yoni Gordas and goes, you I never know, you I know. It's amazing. Right? You I never know. There's a wonderful teaching from Rabbi Melech of Lizhensk, and with this I'll close. It says in Masachet Avot, אל תהיו כעבדים המשמשים את הרב על מנת לקבל פרס, אלא יהיו כעבדים המשמשים את הרב על מנת שלא לקבל פרס. Don't serve God in order to receive a reward, but be like a servant who doesn't receive a reward. And Rabbi Melech of Lizhensk says why? He says because if you have an open barter with someone, or an open bill with someone, and you pay it, your business is done with them. As long as the business isn't balanced, there's an open account, then there's always an interaction with them. Like there's always an opening venue of discourse. No matter what it is you're talking about, there's always that balance that hasn't been settled. So Rabbi Melech says, if God rewards, then we're done. But if there's always an open balance between us and the master of the world, then we're always in relationship. Right? And then coming back to, I want to say, this specific every moment, this Korban Todah of every moment, but even why I'm not going to go into the answers of the Mashilach. Because if we have the answers, then okay, if we like the answers, we don't like the answers. Right? If the answer isn't our answer in some way, or not our answer today, we're going to walk away from the Mashilach. But if we sit with the questions, then we'll continue to walk with the Mashilach. And if we continue to sit with the questions of our teachers, then we'll continue to walk with our teachers. And if we continue to walk with questions to the one and only, then we walk with the Kudsha Brichu, we walk with the Divine Mother all the time. Every moment. And what we're asking for here is, there's, and this is the one place where we could also open a conversation or walk with it, is the difference between responsibility and accountability. And there's a way in which your theology could be one of God's responsible, or it could be one of God's accountable. And whether you hold in this way or you hold in this way, we're still holding that conversation open, right? That Tal'omet is saying there's an accountability that we're not going to resolve. And for Me'ashilach, for I think the way that my Rebbe, Reb Shlomo, taught me to walk in the world, is to walk in the world of questions and to trust God enough to be able to ask all those questions. And to continue to walk with God even when I don't have answers to the questions. Or when I don't know what to do with the answers because they evoke questions that then I don't know what to do with as well. on the one hand, not to be afraid to ask the questions. And I also want to say not to walk away because of the questions. And I bless us all to continue to walk together and to, on the one hand, I also want to bless us to know what questions to verbalize, to know what questions to hold on to without verbalizing. I want to say also bless us to know when to pursue answers and when to allow the questions to live. Knowing that there's an answer, there's another column here. Knowing that there's an answer, and yet maybe not right now. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow's tomorrow. And I want to again thank you, our dear Rabbanit, for holding this space for us, for allowing us to pause from everything going on in the world right now, to take a few moments in this holy home and a place where that carries the honor of our teachers.
Hashem, we have the space.